Okay, friends, we are going to be going live here in just a few minutes, and I've got two really good breaking news items concerning the Endicott battery incinerator. You're going to want to stay tuned for this, folks. Tune in. We're going to go live in about 9.5 minutes. Share this video out, like and subscribe, like right now, and that way, and click the bell and ask for all notifications, and that way you'll always get a notification whenever I go live or post a new video. So tune back in, share this out, stay tuned. We're going live in about 9 minutes, friends. Stand by. Alrighty, friends, how y'all doing tonight? It is the Bill Huston podcast, a late night edition. It's about 10 o'clock here on May 20th of 2020. So it's almost, it's 21. It's going to be 10, so it's going to be 2,200 hours. So I missed 2 hours ago. Would have been 20, a lot of 20s in there. How are you all doing tonight? Let me just check to see. We have had up to 14 people jumping on right now. So say hi in the chat if you are watching and let me know if it sounds okay.
It's 2 hours ago.
So it sounds like it's okay to me. All right. So a couple of breaking news items for you today. Let's roll right into it, shall we? So, all right, just stand by 1 second. I have to call up the right stuff. All right, so what do I got to do? I have to change a little bit of the setup, and Stand by 1 second. This is live TV, friends. It's live. It's live TV. And not everything is always set up ideally. And I'm getting some fuzz. I'm going to clip out. Okay. All right. So okay, so that looks okay, I guess. All right, so okay, friends, here we go. So we've got two huge Sungeel battery incinerator updates for you tonight, and the first one is this one over here. This is a mechanic's lien. This is something that John Solak, the amazing John Solak, found he went to the Broome County clerk, and he did some searching, and what he found something very interesting. He found that there was a mechanic's lien filed against Sungeel. Okay, here's the story. The story is that back in December of 2018, let me show you the date. So, the liener's attorney, M. Christo is the name of the contractor. M. Christo from Castleton, New York, filed the mechanic's lien, and it was against both Huron Real Estate Associates, represented by James Orband of Hinman, Howard, and Cattell, who I believe James Orband actually has a material interest in that property, besides just being the counsel for it. I believe he is a co-owner. I could be wrong about that, but I believe last I checked he was. And so they did the lien. They filed the lien against Sungeel and on the property, against the property, because it's a mechanic's lien. That's what they do. And the name of the person, Sungeel MCC Americas. Materials furnished was demolition performed by the lienor. The material actually manufactured for, but not delivered, is services for. So it was an $800 job. There's several things that are interesting in this, friends. Great job. Hats off to you, John Solak, for finding this. So the first thing is, let's just go through this, and then we're going to see if we can figure out what's really odd about this. So the first one is that the total agreed price was about $800,000. The amount unpaid was $550,000, so $500,000. And that is, and they're also looking for accrued interest and finance charges. Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay. Let's read this. I'm going to just zoom in so we can see it. Now, here's what's very interesting. Well, I got to make this a little bit wider, don't I? Let's make this a little bit wider so you can see it. So I might have to actually... Let's do it like that. Okay. So do you see this, friends? The time... Stand by. Stand by 1 second. Professional YouTubers don't have dead air like this. All right. Just trying to make it so that you can read it a little bit better. I'm going to make myself really small so you can see the whole thing. All right. So the time when the first item of material was furnished and or labor was performed was December 13, 2018. What's odd about that date? December 13, 2018. Well, let's remember that the Empire State Development Corporation Oopsie. That's what I wanted. Okay, so the Empire State Development Corporation, let's look at the date here. September of 2018, that's when the project was first announced. I was one of the first people locally, and by the way, there was a press article. Let's look at Press Connects. And it was... Bear with me 1 second. Okay. 86 jobs. Look at that. So this was the first press announcement. This was, where's the date? Oh, come on. $86 jobs. Okay, so let's look at the date here. The date is September 27, 2018. Empire State Development announced it September 27, 2018. So Empire State Development first announced this project September 27th. They issued this press release. This is the one that had Howard Zemsky of Empire State Development, Danish Mir, MCC. Oh, yeah, it's great, it's great, it's great. Broome County Executive Jason Garner. I love the incinerator. Broome County Assemblywoman, New York State Assemblywoman Donna Lupardo. I love it. I love incinerators. John Bertoni, William Acker, NY Best. A lot of big names came on and endorsed this thing. September 27, 2018. Okay, you got that? Nobody really in town figured anything out about what this thing was until September of 2018 when Sungeel, MCC Americas, came to visit with Western Broome Environmental Stakeholders Coalition. That's where I went. I brought my camera. I videotaped it, asked him a lot of questions, put it online. That was the very beginning, September of 2019. That was 1 year later, 1 year after this, okay, when they first announced it. So for a whole year, nobody in Endicott really knew anything about this facility, okay, a whole year. But Jason Garner loves it. Donna Lupardo loves it. Everybody loves it. Howard Zemsky loves it. Everybody loves it. I'm not going to talk about the old mayor, the ex-mayor, because he's just not a player anymore in this thing, so we don't need to bash on him. And he actually has appeared at a press conference with our group. So cheers to John Bertoni, the former mayor. Thank you for doing that. But the timeline. Pay attention to the timeline. September of 2018, they announced this thing. Now, let's look at the mechanics lien. The mechanics lien says in December 13, 2018, 3 months later, they were doing demolition work inside the facility. Sungeel was doing demolition work inside the facility. So what's the issue with that? What's the issue with them doing work inside the facility? Well, part of the problem is they didn't have a permit. They didn't have a DEC permit. They didn't have a building permit. And from what I've found so far, I've been doing these FOIL requests, and sometimes you have to do a couple different iterations because there's a lot of different ways you can ask for something, and you think you ask for it in a complete way, but in reality, you didn't ask for it in a complete way. I spoke with code enforcement today, and they told me that there was no building permit, no demolition permit, no kind of permit ever issued, never even applied for, from Sungeel at this facility. So just to make sure, I repeated the FOIL request with a slight change. They haven't gotten back to me. I'm very grateful to Janice Orlando, she's the assistant treasurer. She's doing the FOIL responses. She's been very supportive, very cordial. Fast turnaround. I've been getting fast turnaround. I got a fast turnaround from the code inspector today. So I'm very, very grateful to everybody that's trying to turn this around fast. I think everybody knows how important this is. But do you see? Let me say one more thing. Oh, the time when the last item for materials furnished and or labor performed was July 1, 2019. So from December 13, 2018 to July 2019. This was still July, August, September. This was still 2 months. They completed the demolition 2 months before they ever approached Western Broome Environmental Stakeholders Coalition. But the real question is, recall, somebody that's watching, tell me, when did the DEC allegedly, it's controversial. It is not without controversy. So the question is, when did the DEC issue the permit? Anybody know? The DEC issued the permit March 30th, 2020, this year. So do you see where I'm going with this now? So from December 13, 2018 to March 30th, 2020, that's like 15 months. 15 months before they ever had any kind of a permit. I'm getting to that, Brett. You are absolutely right, brother. I am getting to that. Hi, Valdi. Thank you for letting me know the sound is okay. So, 15. So let's say you want to locate a facility in Endicott, okay, and you want to incinerate batteries, okay. Would you spend $800,000 on demolition work 15 months before you got a permit? That's a really, to spend nearly $1 million to do demolition work inside that building prior to their issuing a permit? Who would put that kind of risk out there unless either A, you ain't paying for the demolition work, like maybe you got a check from Empire State Development Corporation to do the demolition work, like it came from the state, like it's part of that seed money, or, in fact, what did they say? Let's go back and look at that article, actually. Let's go look at this article and figure out what was promised. It was $1.75 million, so they're going to get 86 high-tech jobs with salaries over $50,000. Man, these people are dreaming. These people are dreaming. That is really dreamland stuff, okay? Because it's going to be like 20 high-tech jobs. It's going to be 20 jobs, and it's going to be like dirty crash and bash and, loading batteries into the incinerator kind of a job. And you're going to have to be wearing hazmat suits, probably, respirators, protective clothing. It's not going to be fun. It's dirty and it's dangerous work, and it's low wage. So this is all smoke here. But what I'm trying to figure out, okay, so Sungeel High Tech will provide the recycling technology, and Metallica Commodities Corporation will broker incoming batteries and the products of the new business. ESD will provide $750,000 capital grant toward M&E and a $1 million tax credit. $800,000. Isn't that interesting? So they gave him $800,000 capital grant toward M&E. Who knows what M&E? Brett, do you know what do they mean when they say M&E? Oh, monitoring and evaluation. So it's not, the $800,000 wasn't for the demolition work, apparently. Okay. That's just the one thing that I thought of. Maybe the state paid for the demolition. But the point is, you see where I'm going with this, right? Why would you spend $800,000 of your own money, or at least promise a contractor, we're worth $800,000, don't worry, we will pay you $800,000 to do this demolition work. Paid him $250,000 and stiff the contractor, not pay the contractor for the 2/3 of the bill they didn't pay. So the contractor filed a builder's lien against the property and against Sungeel. And that was filed December 30th, 2019. And as far as I can see, it's still in progress. This hasn't been resolved. So I could be wrong about that, but from what I can see on the county website, it looks like this is still an open case. So let's just recap this, because this is very interesting. Number one, 15 months before they got a permit, they hired a contractor, demolition contractor, and promised them $800,000. Okay, yeah, we're good for it. Here's $250,000 just to get you started. Do the work, we'll give you the rest. We'll give you the other 2/3, $550,000. Well, they didn't. They stiffed them. They stiffed the contractor, Sungeel. So, number one, it indicates that maybe they're not financially solvent. Maybe they have financial issues. Or maybe they just have character issues. Maybe they just don't pay their bills. Maybe they just stuff the wads of cash they're getting from ESD and putting it in their pants pocket and not paying it to the people actually doing the work. That's a possibility too. The next thing is, why would they spend that kind of money over 1 year before they got the first permit? And here's the other significant thing. It does not look, I'm not 100% sure right now, I'm like 99.9% sure they did not have a building permit or a demolition permit to do that work from the village of Endicott. Well, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is, what's the problem with that, Brett? You just said it in the chat. And the total contractor bill. Well, the total contractor bill was about, well, the 750. I don't think it's connected. The 750,000, Brett. The 750,000 was the capital grant for monitoring and evaluation. It's kind of a coincidence that the demolition bill was close to that. The demolition bill was $800,000. So I was trying to see if those two things were related. It doesn't look like that they are. So, but you were right. You said it before, Brett. It's asbestos. And there's hazardous materials. There are hazardous materials in that building. So there's a lot of paperwork having to do. And there might even have to be a seeker analysis and an environmental impact statement. By the way, hit the like button. Hit the like button if you're watching this. I want to see some likes. So not only did they... where's the seeker analysis for the demolition? Where's the asbestos survey? Where's the hazardous materials survey? Where's the bill of lading for the material that was carted out of here? Where did that go? Was it contaminated? Was it properly disposed of? There's no paperwork. This thing is all off the books. Very, 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 very shady. Very, very shady. Very, very suspicious. This building permit, the lack of this building permit around this demolition work that was done 15 months before the first permit, highly suspicious. Okay. That's what I wanted to say. Let me read the chat. So, let me read the chat. and just see what everybody's saying, because I have one more big story that I'm about to report. This is one. The mechanics lien is a big deal. Okay, it's a big deal. Brett says they also need an asbestos survey. Exactly. Valdi says, yep, end of March 2020 was when the air emission permit, it was actually ASF, Air State Facility Permit, was issued by DEC. It was issued. It's questionable whether it's legal, Valdi. I just want to say that, because lots and lots of problems with that permit. The first and primary problem for me is the fact that it was misclassified as an unlisted seeker action. It had to be a Type 1 seeker action. Guess what? If I call it the seeker flowchart, you'll see that the Type 1 seeker absolutely gets a coordinated review. Well, we didn't get a coordinated review for the facility. We got a, can I cuss? Is ass a cuss word? Half-assed. Is that going to get me in trouble if I say half-assed? The 239 review on the zoning change was half-assed and untimely because they did the seeker analysis afterwards, and it was supposed to happen prior to. Should have been included with the request to the county. But there was no coordinating agencies, and it was 2 pages. So it was very inadequate. But there was never a coordinated review on the facility itself. The DEC said a coordinated review was performed. And then when the village attorney, Robert McCurtich, wrote to the DEC this multi-page complaint to the DEC about problems with the process, and pardon me, I gotta get a drink of water. McCurtich wrote this amazing letter in February. Sorry. And he called out this stuff. The attorney for the DEC came back. This guy's name is Joe Sluzar. Joe Sluzar, Brett, you might probably remember Joe Sluzar. He used to be the attorney for the county, for Broome County. Now he works for the DEC. Moving on up. Joe Sluzar came back and said, oh, it was a typo. When we said we had done a coordinated review, we meant to say an uncoordinated review, which means no review at all. That's what uncoordinated review means. It means we didn't do anything. So, because the DEC misclassified this as a unlisted seeker action, way at the beginning of this process, that invalid, everything after that point is invalid. Because if it had been a Type 1 seeker, we would have gotten a coordinated review. It's very likely we would have gotten an environmental impact statement. And it's very likely also we would have gotten a minimum of 1, more likely 4 public hearings. You get a public hearing for scoping. You get a public hearing for the draft environmental impact statement. You get a public hearing for the final environmental impact statement. And then you get a hearing for the permit. So that's 4. That's 4 public hearings. We got 0, and we didn't get an EIS, and we didn't get a coordinated review because the DEC misclassified this at the beginning. So that's a big problem. Okay, continuing on, at 1012, Valdi says they likely had a good idea that a permit would be approved. Well, yeah, that's an interesting point, right? It's like, who could have told them that? Maybe the chief executive of the state, maybe, tells his buddy and neighbor, Glendon Archer. You know, Incinerator Andy lives up there in Mount Kisco, and Glendon Archer, who is the CEO of Metallica Commodities Corporation, lives a couple of miles down the road. They're neighbors. And Glendon Archer is also a major contributor to the Democratic Party. And there's a lot of Democrats involved here. Governor Cuomo, Jason Garner, Donald Lupardo, and 2 of the ladies on the board that are for this thing are Democrats. Lots of Democrats. I know. We're all supposed to like the Democrats, right? Because they're better on the environment. Well, I'm not so sure about that. All right, Brett Jennings at 1012 says, that is par for the course around here. Try short paying to the lower costs. I don't understand short paying. What's the difference? Okay, we talked about that. Brett says, to get a building permit, you have to have an asbestos survey by NYCRR 56. Absolutely. Absolutely, Brett. You are on the money. Brett says 1 copy has to be turned into the municipality. Doesn't look like it. Valdi says, what used to be done in Building 259? Well, they called it the treater tower. And they did some kind of incineration. But that was years and years ago. And now the people in the community, first of all, this is a new thing, so it's got to be re-permitted. There's no grandfathering of these air permits, so they have to reapply for everything. Okay, it was an industrial use there before. It was an incinerator, but there was incineration that was done there. However, if you watch the children's press conference from last Saturday, you'll find out that the kids are all saying we are imagining a post-industrial Endicott. We suffered enough from industrial contamination for decades, and we're done with it. We want to be a clean and green economy. We don't want incinerators or stink trucks or anything like that. We want to reimagine Endicott as clean and green. Okay, 1016. Brett says EPA needs to be notified if there was asbestos work due to being an industrial building. I know. It's looking bad in terms of the paperwork. Valdi says 1016. Do you actually know which building the demolition work was being done in? Yeah, Building 259. Well, that's a good question, Valdi. Actually, I would say there's a 98% chance it was Building 259 because when we met with them, when Western Broome Environmental Stakeholders Coalition met with Sungeel back in September of 2019, they were complaining about these big air handlers. I mean, they had been talking to us like the demolition was already done, and we see proof of that now. So I'm just assuming it was in Building 259 because the other one's just a warehouse. It's just a building, it's just a very simple building. There's not... If you watch that original Sungeel tape, it's online. The video's online. You can hear them talking about that. Okay, last comment. Brett says that can be 5 years and $250,000 in fine. Get out! Are you kidding me? That can be 5 years and $250K in fines for Clean Air Act violation and 2 years with 100. Whoa! That's amazing. Thank you, Brett. Thank you for letting me know that. That's serious. I mean, I knew this was serious. I didn't know how serious, but I know that asbestos mitigation, that asbestos survey, is a big deal. Okay, let me go on and tell you the next story that I have for you. And that is going to make you very happy. If I can find it. Oh, by the way, if you go to Bill Huston Podcast, if you look for a blog called Bill Huston Podcast, that's where I have the details about this mechanics lien. You can read it yourself right here. It's 4 pages, and one's an affidavit of service. I just included this one. This was one of the original screen grabs that John Solak provided. Thank you, John. And there's just some sidebar stuff there I just wanted you to see. But it's basically just these. It's most of the substances in these first 2 pages. This one is verification. It's a verified complaint. It just means it's signed, and the verification was notarized. And then this is affidavit of service. So really, 1, 2. The first 2 pages are the ones that are really important. That's got all the details in it. Alrighty, now let's look at the next one. Bill Huston blog. Once again, all the details are here. Sungeel, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation reopens the permit for the Sungeel hazardous... Oh boy, what is the matter with my spelling? Did I do that? I gotta fix that. I can't deal with that. Let me just fix the spelling really quick, friends, while I'm talking to you. It's going to take a minute to load up, so I'm just going to keep on talking to you. All right, so hazardous, it's supposed to be a D. The DEC reopens the permit for the Sungeel hazardous waste incinerator, and the whole purpose is for these PFAS compounds. I'm going to let Paul Connett tell you the full chemical name, but they're basically fluorinated compounds. Very, very toxic. And I believe PFAS, that's the one that had to do with the water contamination. Where was that? In New York. Somebody help me out. Where was the there was one town in New York that had the PFAS contamination. I'm not recalling let's go to news. PFAS. Let's look for New York. And it should come right up. New York town discovers toxic cohose. That's not the town I was thinking of. Cohose is, I think Cohose is up by Buffalo. Toxic PFAS fallout found near incinerator in upstate New York. There's another hazardous waste incinerator. Oh, that is the Cohose incinerator. Yep, that's by. Where is Cohose? Let me just look that up. I just want to make sure. It's Albany County. Okay, so it's it's kind of southeast of Albany. Okay, I think. Let's look and see. I should have gone to the map. Well, there's Albany County up there. So it's Cohose. That's the Cohose incinerator. But I thought that there was another place that had this this PFAS. There's several chemicals that are very similar, so I get them confused. Anyway, so here's what they're going to do. Here's what the DEC is going to do. DEC is going to make changes. They're going to make modifications to this permit, and they're going to reopen the comment period based on just the modifications. You can only comment on the delta, on the modifications. Now, Brett, maybe you know Seeker better than I do, but I seem to think that you can't just modify you really have to begin the process over again. But not just for that reason. They have to begin the process all over again because they misclassified the project as an unlisted seeker. It absolutely had to be a Type 1 seeker because of that required zoning change. Remember the zoning change that the mayor kept saying has nothing to do with anything? That was required. They had to do that zoning change. And how many acres did it impact? It impacted about 560 acres. Well, 560 is greater than 25. Therefore, this project should have automatically been a Type 1 seeker action. But it wasn't. It was unlisted. So DEC messed up from the get-go. So this is just a little press release that I sent out. I sent it out to all the players that got notified on this this email that went out from Reggie Parker to Mr. Danish Mir. So let's read what it says, okay? Dear Mr. Mir, this letter is in regard to the subject of the Air State Facility Permit issued March 30th, 2020 for a battery recycling facility. There it is, recycling, no mention of incineration. As you are aware, the New York State DEC recently became aware that some lithium-ion batteries contain some amount of per and or polyfluoroalkyl substances, polyfluoroalkyl, PFAS substances, polyfluoroalkyl substances. In addition, there is evidence that any PFAS compounds present in these batteries could result in PFAS emissions at the temperature that the rotary kiln dryer operates. SMCC has indicated that their air pollution control equipment for the project, particularly the afterburner, may serve to control PFAS emission in the exhaust if operated under certain conditions. Based on this new information, DEC has concluded that a modification to SMCC's ASF permit is required to process any lithium-ion batteries containing PFAS compounds at the facility, since this was not part of the original permit application prepared by SMCC. I don't know why that doesn't invalidate the whole thing and make them restart all over again, but whatever. The application for the modification for SMCC's ASF permit must include an estimation of PFAS emissions both prior to and after air pollution control. This should be based on information from battery manufacturers regarding the PFAS content of the batteries to be processed at the facility, and documentation surrounding the degree of air pollution control for PFAS emissions. So once again, this is the honor system, friends. This is the honor system. In other words, when you have variable input, different kinds of sources coming into your incinerator, and you really don't know what it is. You don't know whether Tesla, this particular batch of Panasonic batteries or whatever it is, had a different process they used. What happens if the paper trail isn't there? You're assuming that it is there. There's a lot of trust involved in this process, okay? So please note that a permit modification will need to go through public review and comment, limited to new information in the application and the modified portions of the permit. Alternatively, if SMCC intends to only accept batteries that do not contain PFAS compounds, DEC will require that SMCC provide a certification from each manufacturer. Honor system. It's the honor system. From each manufacturer of batteries that will then be processed at the facility, confirming. It doesn't confirm anything. It's a piece of paper. A confirmation would be if you actually do an input source analysis. If you actually look at the chemistry of what it is you're messing with before you dump it in. But when you're dealing with, 2,200 pounds per hour or whatever it is, 2,300 pounds per hour of every day it's in operation, there's really no time to be doing advanced chemistries. Just dump it in there. Dump it in the kiln. To be able to operate under the current permit, SMCC must demonstrate how it will track and verify that batteries received at this facility are only for those certified by the manufacturers as not containing PFAS. It's the honor system. We're trusting industry to have good records. Please provide the response to this letter no later than June 1st, 2020. No later than June 1st, indicating how SMCC will proceed on this issue. Please include in the response a schedule for either submitting an ASF permit modification application or a schedule providing manufacturer certifications to the DEC. Reginald Parker, and here's all the people that it went to. Well, guess what? I sent my follow-up to those same people right here. And this is great. Let me just read you my commentary really quick. William Huston of Concerned Citizens of Endicott states, "This is great as it will cause a delay in the permitting process. However, the NYS DEC," there's another typo, I'm going to fix it when the show's over, has failed to identify the numerous other defects that concerned citizens of Endicott have identified with this permit. The biggest being the initial misclassification as an unlisted seeker action. This project must be a Type 1 seeker due to a necessary zoning change impacting 25 or more acres. And you can look that up yourself. This ain't hard. This law has very plain language, 6 NYCRR 617.4. You want to look that up right now? You don't believe me? That's plain language? Let's look it up right now. So, Type 1 actions. The purpose of Type 1 actions is to identify, this Type 1 action. Let's start at B. The following actions are Type 1 if they are to be directly undertaken, funded, or approved by an agency. Let's look at number 2. B2. What's B2 say, Billy? The adoption of changes in the allowable uses within any zoning district affecting 25 or more acres. Guess what they just did? The cleanup crew. They just changed the definition of an industrial zone, which impacts 560 acres, approximately. 560 is way bigger than 25. What does that mean? That means we're supposed to get a Type 1 seeker review. A Type 1 seeker review. Let me see if I can call up that that seeker chart really quick. SEQ. That's not the right one. Okay, there's seeker. I'm going to do it this way. Stand by 1 second. I don't know if I'm going to find this for you, friends. Quickly, I wish I had. How about flowchart? SEQR. Let me see if there's a file called. There's seeker flowchart. There's a couple. Okay, that's one that I made. That's not one that I'm looking for. Another one that I made. What's this one? Okay. So, I'm not sure if you could see that or not. Basic seeker. Let's look at this. So step 1 is this action subject to seeker? Okay. So type 2 action is no review at all, because a type 2 action is something so trivial. It's like the governor. I always say the governor picks his nose. That's so trivial. Or he picks up a pencil and he puts the pencil behind his ear. That's a type 2 action. It's clearly, to anybody that looks at it, it's clearly absolutely trivial, and it doesn't require any seeker review. Now the next one up is unlisted action. That's actually the middle one. The unlisted action, we have a coordinated review option, dotted line. It's not required. Mostly you're going to get the uncoordinated review, which means no coordinated review at all. And that's what it means. That's what we got. We got the fast track. Uncoordinated review. Review criteria, determine significance. Bam, negative declaration. This was what we got. And this was quite improper. Because as we just showed you, according to the plain language of 6 NYCRR 617.4 B2, this had to be a type 1 seeker action, which requires a full environmental assessment form and a coordinated review. Look at that. Look at what we didn't get. We had to get a coordinated review. And by the way, it's pretty trivial to find just a single possible environmental impact or human health impact to get a positive declaration. DEC failed to do that. It's really simple. It's really easy to find. There's quite a few potential impacts, which triggers a whole process. The scoping process, where typically we get public hearings, we get a draft EIS. This is the path we should have taken. We didn't take this upper path here that produces a public comment. Look at this, a final EIS. Several different stages for public hearings. We got this crappy little fast track right here. Illegally. This was illegal. So, concerned citizens of Endicott sent a sharp rebuke to the DEC and said, well, this is nice. It's great because it's going to cause a delay, but it ain't good enough because you still didn't even acknowledge, let alone try to fix the fact that this project was initially misclassified, and that means we didn't get a public hearing. We didn't get one public hearing, let alone 4. We also didn't get an EIS, and we didn't get a coordinated review. We were robbed. We were robbed of a full environmental impact review. They didn't give it to us. They gave us the fast track because everybody's trying to rush this thing through. So because it failed, okay, that's just what I just told you. The DEC must start over and classify this project correctly as a Type 1 seeker and have a comprehensive EIS. I didn't enumerate what that is because we'll get there for scoping. We're going to have scoping. So we're going to talk about what's in the comprehensive EIS. We're going to have a comprehensive coordinated review where we're going to talk to both school boards. We're going to talk to the town of Union and the town of Vestal, nearby communities, nearby municipalities. And we're also going to talk to the Department of Health, and we're also going to talk to the Department of Transportation. None of that was done. None of that was done. And let's recall, the 239 review of the facility in Fenton is where the school district got involved, and the school district actually ended up suing the planning board and getting that decision overturned. So that's why the coordinated review is very, very important, because sometimes you get stakeholders involved to say, hey, this doesn't sound like a good idea. I don't think this is going to be good for kids. So let me check the chat really quick and see if there's anybody that's still on. Looks like we have 4 concurrent viewers. Okay, so let me go back. Perfluoroalkyl substances. Okay. Oh, Hoosick Falls. Thank you, Valdi. That's what I was thinking about. And that was is that PFAS? Is that the same stuff? I think it is. Hoosick Falls. Brett got it too. Yep. Okay. And you know what, Brett? Craig Stevens. I was talking to Craig today, and he said, talk to Brett. I bet Brett's worked over there. And now you're saying you did some work over there. So very, very interesting. We'll talk offline about that, Brett. If the DEC reopens, they have to redo the process. I agree with you. I completely agree with you. Valdi says, from above, in January 2016, Governor Cuomo announced an emergency regulation to classify PFOA as a hazardous substance and classify the St. Gobain McCaffrey plant as a state Superfund site. Isn't that interesting? Took effect on April 25, allows the DEC to regulate handling and storage. Riverkeeper 2016. A new law took effect April 25. Yes, so this has been a real concern, these PFAS substances, or PFOAs and PFAS, these related fluorine or fluoride compounds are very serious environmental concerns. So that's pretty much what I have. So those were the 2 updates. Let's just recap before I close the stream down. Number 1, let's take it in reverse order. Number 2 is that the DEC is going to reopen the ASF, the Air State Facility Permit for Sungeel, due to them missing this any mention of PFOAs in the permit. So that's the first one, and that was the last one. And the second one is this builder's lien. You can get both of them. If you look at the Bill Huston podcast blog, you're going to be able to get both of these. You'll be able to read both of these articles, and you'll be able to see, here's the builder's lien right here, and read all about it, where Sungeel stiffed a contractor $500,000 for demolition work over 1 year, 15 months prior to them having the DEC permit, which is pretty damn weird, if you ask me. And they didn't even have a building permit or a demolition permit. From the looks of it, I'm probably, like I said, 98% sure right now. I should be totally sure in a couple of days. Okay, friends, unless there's something else that you want to talk about in the chat, those are my 2 updates. I might do a quick update over on Facebook because I get different audience over there. So I'm probably just going to do the same material over on Facebook. So please, if you haven't already, I would appreciate it very much if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel, Bill Huston Podcast. There's my email address. If you feel so moved, tinyurl.com/donate to Bill Huston. I survive on donations and grants. I do have a job. It doesn't really pay enough to cover my living expenses. So I constantly have to fundraise. If you appreciate my work, and I have a long history, the history is at Bill Huston's fracking resume. If you Google Bill Huston's fracking resume, you will see that is this the one? Here it is. If you just Google Bill Huston's fracking resume, you will see a summary of what I've been doing with my life for the past 10 years. I do a lot of public service work. I do original research, video production, audio production, do a lot of interviews. I've shot civil disobedience actions. I've shot expert panels. I've done lots and lots of original research, quality original research, and things like bomb trucks and hazardous waste incinerators. I jump right on this stuff because other people aren't doing it. So if you appreciate my work, there you go, friends. I would appreciate donations in any amount. Okay, I'm going over and repeat this over on Facebook, so maybe I'll see some of you over there. Bye-bye.